All right, well, I'm okay with calling the meeting to order then. It's 3:31, but I'm not sure how. So I guess I call it, Lindsay's gonna have to make a motion. I'm gonna have to approve it. Is that how it works?
Well, actually, there's no motion because you don't have a quorum to approve anything. So,
Oh, okay. All right, well, let's call the meeting to order.
okay, I will do roll call. Erickson,
Here.
Garrett, Hutchinson,
Here,
Javaltis, and Lord. Okay, so right now, we just have two folks here. But like I said, if somebody else jumps in, we can always go back and approve the minutes. But Todd, if you just want to start going through the agenda and you know, we will do as much as we can.
all right, so I assume there's no citizen statements then?
We have not received any calls or emails or any documentation from any citizens, and I don't believe we have anybody on the WebEx meeting today.
Okay, and we're not gonna approve the meeting minutes, so next up would be Advocate Rental Assistance Update.
Good afternoon, everyone. Vera is alive and well. With the eviction moratorium continuing through October, we're still getting a lot of calls. Between AdvoCap and Energy Services, Inc., we have spent $3,904,000 and some change. I'm actually going to send all my spreadsheets to the city so you can all see them because I'm updating these pretty regularly. Of that, AdvoCap has spent 49% of that, and ESI has spent out 51% of that. The state of Wisconsin nationally is spent out for number 13th in the amount of money that has spent out through the state of Wisconsin, and 8th by capita. So we're doing a fantastic job of getting the money out. As you've seen in the news, the president's a little concerned about making sure that people are getting this assistance. So we're continuing to do that. 90% of the money is being spent on past due and current rents. And I say that because we're also paying on energy, both gas and electric, past current and arrears. And so although a substantial amount of money has gone to that, 90% is still paying past due and current rents. We're still getting new applications from people from back in 2020 still owing rent. So it's still, the word is still getting out there and we're still helping people stay stable. Of the assistance, and I think I've told you this before, I can do the demographics, meaning I can do head counts and household counts on our dollars, but I cannot on ESI. But if I use our averages of spending $3,522 per household of assistance, we have helped 1,108 households in the 4 counties we're serving. We estimate, and I say that again because I don't get unduplicated numbers, meaning if I've helped somebody with utilities and with rent, AdvoCap's numbers are unduplicated. I don't know that about ESI's dollars. But we have spent $2,307,000 in Winnebago County, and we estimate to have helped 655 households in Winnebago County, specifically 393 in Oshkosh, for a total of $1,384,000 in the city of Oshkosh alone. I give this, and oddly, I give credit to the amount of collaboration that we've put in ensuring that people knew about the WERA program. Landlords know about it, people have known about it, and spreading the word. And I think that's one of the reasons that so much of it is coming into this area and compared to some of the other communities. But we are continuing. The amount of phone calls that we have got since the postcards went out by the state of Wisconsin has tripled. So I say that to the extent that we were getting over 700 phone calls in our Oshkosh office asking for some sort of assistance, financial assistance to pay rent. Not all of them were eligible for WERA. All of them are not necessarily correlated to COVID, but that has increased substantially this week because the postcards went out through the state of Wisconsin. So what else can I tell you? Like I said, I'll send you the spreadsheets that give far more about what's going on in other communities and how much we're spending on other things, but that's kind of the highlights.
Speaking of the postcards, I did receive one in the mail, so very nice. Looks good.
Yeah, I got one too.
I've told some of you I'm going to be next week. I'm going up to Channel 5 and talking about the WERA program and the eviction prevention, and we'll highlight some of the wonderful things that are going on in the city of Oshkosh that's different than we're doing in some other parts of our service territories, including the eviction group that we're working with and UW-Madison I'll perfect how I say that, but the extension of offices and how much they've put into it, and the idea of trying to set up mediation to assist people even before they get to the courthouse and start talking about that. So we've done some innovative things. As you know, AdvoCap is also doing some what we call coaching. So it's not just handing out the funds to people, but it's also asking how's the balance in their life? Is there any other things that we can provide assistance for? And that number of people engaging in coaching is increasing every day. We're just finding that people are, they've kind of run out of resources for people who had the ability, they're still working or they're working reduced hours. So if we figure out how to get everybody jobs and how to fill all the positions in all the companies, well, then we will really be up for some awards, I think, because it's been a nightmare for so many of us looking for staff. And I'm sure some of you are also suffering with that. So we continue to do the program. I'm hiring 2 additional people to do just WERA part-time. So because of the demand, it's just, we want people to be served in a timely manner. So, we kind of scoffed at it when we said this could go through 2025, the funding is available, but as we see this, the numbers increase all over again, and we don't know what the future holds. We can see why the government thought that this might be around for a while.
Thank you, Lou.
Sure. Do you find this interesting? Do you find it valuable? Do you find it, is there something else you'd like me to tell you or collect before I ever speak again?
No, I find it interesting. I personally find it interesting, and I appreciate the time that you come in here. I'm not sure what we do with it as a group. I guess that's another question that I have. It's like, okay, we listen to this. I don't know, how this is of value to the rest of the city, which is, the reason why we have this committee, right? Or this board is to do something with it, but I'm not sure that we're doing anything with it other than, it's good for our own information and we're sharing it. I guess. It's one of the questions that I have.
Well, sometimes I see that this has been
I was
posted.
just even
I said sometimes this information gets posted in the Herald, which again, I think is just telling people what's out there, what's available to them. I would tell you 1 out of 3 people who call say they just never saw this coming. They were just so surprised. It took them so by surprise that this is a group of people who have never needed assistance before. And we know what it's brought to. One of the things that's brought to highlight is the lack of truly affordable housing for people and just available rental units in general. I mean, people are just stuck. Landlords, there's just some people who will be evicted and it has nothing to do with rent. People just don't have units to move to. It's very difficult for a lot of families right now. And I say families because those are the ones who seem to be having it's harder to double up. It's harder to find a place to stay when there's more than just one of you. It's a growing number. I think many of you may know that twice a year we do what's called a point of time with our homeless program, and we literally go out in the streets and we count how many people are sheltered in place, meaning at one of the shelters being at Father Carr's, and how many people are unsheltered, meaning they're living in their cars or on the street. And that number went up 50% for us this year, and since January. And it's real. It was more evident perhaps this year just because if you was the last Wednesday of July. It's always EAA, so there's always less people in hotels and places that people usually stay if they have any money. The storm just made it even worse, and so people were seeking shelter in some other places that made it easier to count who were able to come forward and get some resources. But it is a problem. It's an increasing, homelessness is an increasing problem. So.
Could I ask, are you seeing or hearing any barriers for folks who are needing information about this? Do you think that the biggest role that we can play is just still kind of sharing out how to apply, who to contact, that kind of thing?
I do, because I still think that there are, I think landlords are doing a good job. They've used one of our programs. They understand how it works. They're encouraging their tenants, but we still have some mom and pops, smaller landlords that aren't doing this. And of course, right now, the whole real estate market is just crazy. So we have a lot of people who are thinking of selling right now. And so I get at least 2 calls a week again from people who say, I've been living in this rental for 5 years. They sold it. I've got to move. I've got no place to go. Where do I go with my kids and my pets? And, again, it's just this cycle of things. So I think when you ask that question, it's just letting people know that there are people out here who can provide some amount of resources, financial resources, but also, I'm interested in collecting this data because I need to know what's going on in order to best present what the needs of the gaps are in the community that as part of what our agency does is help identify gaps and looks for solutions. So yes, I think these postcards are excellent ways for people to get the word. Any of you who do service work know that when you say, well, if you're 80% of county median income and you've been affected by COVID, we may be able to help you pay your rent, translates to, you're going to pay my rent for 15 months. And we get a lot of those calls and the disappointment from people who just think we're just here to pay their rent for 15 months. It's been pretty outstanding too. And that's one of the reasons my positions right now are part-time, is because the burnout on people, just talking to the people and hearing their stories is pretty rough some days. So.
And one more quick question. What's like the average time that it takes for someone to go through the application process?
We're about 10 business days from reaching out people. So we're adding people to our wait list. It takes us about 10 days. We have to complete that within 30 days. And sometimes at the very last red hot second, we're still calling landlords and or tenants and saying, we need these forms back. They can be faxed to us. They can be scanned and sent to us. We've accepted photocopies to our cell phones. People can drop them off at our offices. So it just depends. It's chasing that paperwork down. My staff has usually got 25 to 30 open ones on their desk any given day. So it's chasing the paperwork down. And the landlords who know how to do it are very efficient with it. Landlords, we're always happy to step through. It's like anything else, you have to have a completed application, and sometimes people don't do that, so that's going back and forth. But it has to be done within 30 days.
Lou, how many people that apply, how many actually get aid? Is there many people turned away?
Well, Don, it's kind of hard to tell because we do a lot of pre-screening.
Okay.
So we do a pre-screen on our online on our website, as does ESI, and then it's it kind of sorts itself out. At one time, I would have told you that 3 in 10 were not affected by COVID or were not income eligible. But now it's harder to say because, like I said, the pre-screen just does not allow them to continue.
Okay.
They're not eligible.
Okay. Thank you.
Right now, though, I'll tell you that number's higher just because, again, the mailing is wonderful because it puts it out there and it gives people good information. The mailing's terrible because it puts it out there and it gives people ideas that we're going to pay, like I said, 15 months of their rent. It says right here, you're going to pay, 12 months of my rent and three additional months or whatever. And, it's the explaining that takes a lot of time with people, when are they eligible, when are they not?
Lou, I guess I'm not very tech savvy. I had to get on my phone and I logged in a couple times, so I might have missed this. So as things are going, are you seeing an increase or plateauing or decrease in number of people applying? But where are you going? What's the feel? Are you getting more or less than you were 2 months ago?
We're still, well, as I said earlier, the postcards that went out from the state has just exponentially given us more phone calls and more people that are interested in
Sure.
the program. It has not slowed down. We're still getting calls from people that are 12 months behind. We've already reached 15 months, which is the max with some amount of households. I mean, it's kind of scary because it's people don't know where their next check is coming from or where their next income is. We know there's going to be a WERA 2.0. We don't know exactly when that starts, but that should help with up to 18 months. That's only 3 more additional months. And as I said, nobody has any idea what this fall is going to look like, right? I mean, there's just so many concerns.
What are these landlords doing that somebody's 12 months behind? How are they making their bills? I read a statistic the other day from the National Apartment Association where it said something like 1 out of 9 landlords have started selling. And that is a concern when this is all over with. We already have a critical shortage of affordable units. And when this is done with, you know, I, it's not going to be pretty. I just had a unit up for rent and it was unbelievable, the response, and to turn people away and have to make, I even had people like, you hear this thing with people buying houses. I actually had somebody offer me more than I was asking for rent, to get the place. So it's kind of like this bidding war. Never seen this before. And so I think after this is all over with, we're still going to have a huge problem with having enough units that are affordable. You just can't build affordable units. So.
Well, we are aware that one of my concerns is there's a seems to be a trend that some of the people are turning their properties over to a different property management company, and the fees that they're charging are, to me, astronomical and unreasonable. It's one thing to be $25 if you're due past the first of the month. That's fine. But $10 every day until that's paid in full. And that kind of flies in the face of the way that, Don, I think you and I would talk to tenants is people tell me I only have $500 of the $750 I owe you, so I didn't pay my rent. I say, oh, please pay the $500 or $400. Make an effort, right? Make something. But then we don't charge a late fee. But to then capitalize on this, and somebody was behind $40 in their rent and paid $206 by the time that they were able to get their next payment to them. And to take advantage of people seems a
Do
little
you think,
harsh too.
yeah, do you think that might be, a lot of these management things are software and things and portals and things like that. Do you think that this is just automatically kicks in, where the mom and pops, of course, I'm a mom and pop landlord, you get to know your tenants, you're doing things seat of the pants. But I know a lot of these management companies, I think, are pretty much computer driven. This is what happens when this happens. And is that what you feel is happening?
Well, I think part of it is policy, but I think there's humans behind everything, and we've talked
Yeah.
about this. And I mean, is it reasonable to have $160 of late fees on a $40,
Hmm.
$46 bill? I mean, can we split that? Can we, what's reasonable? I
Hmm.
double what they owe you, fine. I can live with that. To capitalize on somebody, and we could talk about this in nauseum, the whole
Yeah.
idea that we charge more for people who can't afford it in the first place.
Yeah.
Car companies that charge you twice as much for your car payment and twice as much for the car because you've got poor credit. How does that help, right? It doesn't get anybody ahead. So, I mean, like I said, it's a concern, and you're pointing out many of the things, Don, that I'm also concerned about, knowing the population I'm specifically interested in my homeless program. If you've got a blemish, God help you finding housing right now.
Yeah, that exactly it. You don't even have to look at those folks. I just heard from somebody the other day that wanted to talk to me about people that had, you know, criminal records. And it's like, I haven't talked to her yet, but it's like, I don't know what to tell her because it's like you have so many people to choose from. The people with criminal records are probably going to be on the bottom, of the list, and they're not going to get to the top of the list.
I think she
So,
reached out to me too, but that's a whole nother systemic issue that we need to
yeah.
talk about with employment and everything else. But right now housing, it's crazy. I don't need to tell any of you. If you get properties to sell right now would be the time. I mean, my gosh. I don't blame people for selling their apartments, but I do understand that it's a real hardship for people also who have been
Well,
renting.
mhm. Well, I'm thinking that these property management, I think the average landlord is, certainly north of 50, and they have a choice of selling and then having huge capital gains and depreciation recapture, and they end up turning it over to a management company. And I think that might be where a lot of it is. And so you're losing that personal um, touch of, that would came with the small business landlord.
Well, again, they're seeing things they never saw before. So
Yeah.
I'm sure the landlord association is not meeting. Is that correct?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I reserved a meeting spot. I reserved our usual meeting spot at Benvenito's through the end of the year, September, and I've got to ask our board members, feel free of meeting again. Obviously, we have a ton to talk about, and yeah, it's just where, the whole thing of the real thing I see is it hinges on having a supply of affordable housing, because all of these other things, if you don't have the places to rent to them, everything else is moot.
You're right. Okay, anything else? Like I said, if you think of something before 2 months from now that you'd like me to report out on, I would be happy to do that again. But we've got a pulse on a lot of things right now, so we can share a lot other ideas or look for other things you're looking for too. So let me know.
Thank you, Lou.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so next on the agenda is meeting format update. Is
Yeah.
that,
Then I can take care of that. And Todd, I just wanted to interrupt.
Can
Don,
I,
you're
hi,
on.
this is Linda. This is Linda. Can I interrupt for 1 second? I apologize. I've been on the phone for 15 minutes, just so everybody knows. I tried to get on the website for 10 minutes and couldn't get on. The password wouldn't work for me. So, just letting you know that I'm here, just in case, and talk about depersonalization. Here we are, depersonalized. I feel, I don't like being on the phone in this meeting. I can't see anybody. I don't know who's chairing the meeting. Anyways, I'm here. Thanks.
Okay.
Linda, I had the same experience, and I was listening on the phone, and then I was able to log back in. So maybe you could try again, but I had the same kind of frustrating experience. So.
I won't try again. I'm frustrated right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Linda, why don't you hang on, just stay on the phone, and then maybe at a different time. This is Kelly with the City of Oshkosh. We can help you, make sure you're, everything is all set where you could log on properly. So why don't you just hang on and listen, and we can kind of talk. If we're showing anything, we can talk about it with you. But Todd, if you want, we could probably go back up to item number 4. To approve the minutes, since we do have a quorum now.
okay, we've got a quorum. Does anyone make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from June 9th.
Do we have a second?
I second that.
Moved and seconded. We vote on it?
Don?
Yeah, I'll probably just call roll call just because we can't all see each other. Erickson,
Aye.
Hutchinson,
Aye.
Javeltis,
Hi.
and then Lord.
Aye.
Great, thank you. We can jump back down to the meeting format update. If you recall, Back in June, Alan probably shared with you that the meetings, they had asked, to come back in person in September. Well, just today, just with the way that the cases are going back up, our city manager did, say that he is requiring masks to be worn in City Hall and other public city-owned facilities. So this group can make the decision to still come back and meet in person for the next meeting in October, or you would have to wear masks though, or if you wanted to still meet virtually for your next meeting, you can do that too. So it's just to kind of, see what everybody would prefer.
Well, I still think we should meet virtually. I think we have a hard time getting a quorum to begin with, and but that's my opinion on it. Anybody else?
Okay.
I can be flexible either way. Doesn't
Okay.
matter to me.
Okay.
This is Linda. I would prefer to meet personally.
Okay.
This is Don Lord. Either way, whatever works for best for everybody.
Okay. Well, since we don't have the whole group here, I was going to follow up with some materials that Lou was going to send me. So maybe we'll just put the question out there for everybody else and see if there's any consensus one way or the other. Either way, I will keep the group kind of up to date with what the city policies are for meeting here at City Hall. And, we can always figure it out as we get closer to the next meeting. I just wanted to let everybody know kind of what was the latest and greatest with what we're dealing with here right now. That's all I have for that. Right now. Oh.
Since we're on meeting format update, it seems that, before COVID, we made the decision to meet once every 2 months. And I don't think that works for us at this point. I think going back to once a month for a little bit because of COVID, because of the work we need to do with the public information campaign. So I'd like to see how members feel about that.
I'm happy with every 2 months.
I just want to interject something here. I'm not a member, but John Zardi here with City of Oshkosh, for those of you who can't see me. But I believe the reason why we went to the every other month format is because we were having trouble getting a quorum for this meeting. And as you can see today, we did start this meeting without a quorum. And so that's maybe just something to think about, trying to go monthly. I know that was the main reason why that was switched to a bi-monthly, was because of the lack of quorum when we were going monthly.
No, sir. No, sir. We've always had a quorum. I've been to every meeting, never missed a meeting. And this is the first time that we didn't have a quorum, and it was because of electronics. So I just wanted to let you know that we've always had a quorum, and that wasn't, we went to every other month because we didn't feel that our workload was enough at the time to meet once a month. It seemed like we have sort of banged out what our objectives were. We were working toward those, and once a month seemed a little much. But at this point, things have changed, especially because of COVID and the whole rental assistance business, and our monitoring evictions. And we've got this public information campaign now. So we've always had a quorum. We've never not had a meeting. And if there's anybody else, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been to every meeting.
I wasn't saying that we didn't ever not have a quorum. I'm just saying that there was times we had people that were 5 to 10 minutes late. And we're getting calls here at the city from members that are on this committee saying they might not be able to make it, or we're very short and all members weren't showing up. So I just wanted to clarify that's was part of it. So not that we didn't ever have a quorum. We've always had a quorum. You are correct.
Do we have any openings for this board? I was just trying to look that up on the website. Maybe it's just one alternate that's open.
Yeah, it looks like there's one alternate spot that's open.
Yeah.
I'm currently an alternate, so I don't know what that means, alternate versus a board member.
There's been, since I've been to every meeting, I think for the past 4 years, it seems like people that were chosen to be on the board, not the people present here, but I don't even know some of the members because they just never showed up. There's some people that never showed up, maybe but once. So that's a problem, and we have people call in, but when we first started the board, there were people not showing up, so we thought if there's 2 no-call, no-shows, that we decided that they were off the board. Maybe we need to make some kind of little protocol for ourselves that if they, call in 3 times, then we need to have them replaced on the board. Something like that. It's just an idea. It's a thought, because what's the point of a board if you're not being appointed to the board, if you're not coming to the board meetings? This is important work, and we need to be choosing people who are invested in this work. So I don't know what other people think about if you call in 3 times and we only meet 6 times a year. That seems like a problem to me.
And from a staff perspective, this is Kelly with community development. We can go back and look at minutes and try to get a better idea if there are any, members that haven't been able to make it. And I can also reach out to the city manager's office to see if there are any applications for boards and commissions from folks that might want to join the Rental Housing Advisory Board.
Thank you. That would be a good idea, I think.
Okay.
That's just me, though.
Yeah, I'm struggling the last few months or several months. I've been struggling for what this board is actually doing and accomplishing. And most of the time, like I said to Lou, we're listening to good information, and we take that back to the people that, in our networks and disseminate that. But, with the amount of staff time that this takes up, once a month or once every 2 months, I just think that there's better things for the staff to be doing than to have to sit here through these, however long these meetings are, and for what it's actually accomplishing. And I question that. And so then to move from every 2 months to every month to now doing this, unless we're actually producing something and providing some benefit, and maybe we are to the council. I don't know, Lindsay, you're on the council. Are we providing some benefit to the council by having this board? I'm not sure. And I guess that's my thought on increasing the amount of time. Sometimes I just sit here in these meetings and I look at the amount of, staff and what they have to do and all the other things that they have to do that are put on their plate. And now we're making them sit through these meetings, and I really question if that's the best use of their time. So that's where I stand on this whole thing.
Yeah, to me, I think, we share information a lot. I try to share what we've talked about during these meetings on council. But I think if we can kind of strengthen our action plan, or if there's ways that we can, be like the community arm to what staff are trying to accomplish, I think we can be open to that. But yeah, I agree. I feel like we're kind of spinning our wheels a little bit.
As far as information, government, yeah, that I think is a good thing. Obviously, there is one of the things in housing that I've found is I've attended some meetings, and it's like 20 people that are ships passing in the night, and they're all involved in housing in some way. So I do believe it's good to have a connection and the dissemination of information and, a certain amount of education benefit. But I also can understand what Todd's saying as well, that sometimes it's doesn't feel like there's as much accomplished as should be. But I actually do believe from what I can disseminate is just the dissemination of information, and hopefully we could help educate the public about different things that are out there. But otherwise, you know, there isn't a whole lot.
Well, I think this board is absolutely important. It was a huge struggle to get it started because there was a lot of people who didn't want the board to exist. This board, this rental housing advisory board, we're here to monitor the rental inspections. We created brochures. We don't have an update yet regarding the farmers market. We had someone who wanted to put together, or we wanted to put together a public information campaign. That's huge, a public information campaign. And with regard to tenant landlord rights, tenants have rights. Maybe some people don't want to work on tenant landlord rights. I don't know, but that is our next project. We agreed together that that is our next project. We are not doing nothing. We are gathering this information for particular reasons because we're monitoring rental housing in the city of Oshkosh, and which is important. If we didn't have this board, where would Advocap give their information or like, oh my God, this board is doing important work, and I'm looking forward to getting the public information campaign going. That's why I suggested we meet once a month for the next several months, so we can actually do some work instead of just it sitting there like it has been. So anyway, those are my thoughts about that.
Okay, I don't know. So I'm not sure that we're going to change anything right now. I suppose that when you send out the email about the meeting format, you can also ask about whether or not it should be moved back to month, and then get the opinion of the entire board. Okay, the next up on the agenda is the rental inspections update.
And I've got that for you. This is John Zarati with inspections. So about the same, we haven't done any of the program inspections again. We did have 33 complaint based in the last 2 months. Again, just the typical, top 5 or 6 smoke, CO, locks on doors, some faulty electric, some leaky plumbing, loose handrail, those types of things in the complaints. That's what I had for you on the rental. On that, we were thinking, we had talked, back in, I forget which meeting we were at. We were going to have possibly the inspection starting up again, sending out mailings in September. I think with the uptick that we're seeing now, and maybe not the right time to start the program again in September. So I think as a supervisor of this division, I am going to say that we should continue to delay that and see possibly what October looks like, and maybe make a decision at that meeting to maybe resume later in October or something, see where the pandemic is at that point. Does anyone have any questions on that?
Yeah, thanks, John. Does anybody questions? If not, next on the agenda is social media update.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I guess somehow I hit the button wrong. So how long is the inspection program been on with?
I didn't catch that, Don. Could you say that again?
Oh, how long has the rental inspection program been on hold? The whole time with COVID, or?
Yeah, I want to say probably about February of last year, I think, was our last inspections for the program.
Yeah, I have one other question is, last time you reported in the first quarter, you had 19 complaints And now you just said that you had 33 in the last 2 months, or is in the last quarter? I was just wondering, is there an uptick that you see in summer, or is this normal, or is this more than normal?
I would say that's about normal for us.
Okay.
That's complaint-based ones, yeah.
So you said last time there was 19 and then 33. Is that through like the end of July?
Right.
Okay. So then there is about, would say 52 complaint based so far this year, about halfway through the year.
Yeah, I would double check that. There could be
Okay.
more than that.
Okay. Yeah. I remember the first time, last week I was reading the notes, it was 19 and this time it was 33. I was just concerned that that's quite an increase.
Yeah, I mean, staff, I haven't seen staff or heard from staff to say that they've, are overwhelmed or anything, or there's a major increase.
Yeah.
I think this just kind of ebbs and flows as to how many we're getting.
Yeah.
And I think some of this that we're seeing, quite honestly, is they do play us as pawns.
Right.
And I think with the fear of the eviction coming off, I think we were seeing some of that where they were looking to say that their apartment was not habitable because they were looking to not have to come up with all this rent money that they are now back owed to the landlords.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so your department enters in all this stuff about COVID too.
Right.
I guess no one is unaffected, right?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
How many
Anyone
staff
else?
do you have? How many staff do you have, John? You mentioned staff, but how many inspectors do you have?
There's 8 inspectors, including myself.
Oh, I didn't know there were that. I didn't know there were that many. I only ever saw that one other gentleman that come in. So, okay, thanks.
But there's only one or
okay.
two that do rentals, is that correct?
Yeah, John, I mean, not everybody does. You want to explain? You only
Yeah.
have a couple housing inspectors.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. The housing inspector, we primarily just have the one inspector for the housing, the rental housing. Correct. Yeah. The whole inspection staff within this division, there's 9 of us. So we have our permit technician and then a supervisor, which is me, and then 7 inspector-ish type people. There are a couple different titles within there, but basically 7 inspectors then.
And so
One of
some
them being the housing inspector.
okay, and then the other ones specialize in like electrical plumbing or commercial, or how do the other ones specialize?
Right. Yep. So special in building, special in plumbing, special in electric. Correct.
Okay. All right, next on the agenda is social media update.
Okay, and I've got that. And Casey has told me that on his last few posts that he's put on our Facebook page was some information regarding the city's curb appeal program. And that's for residents. They can get this loan, if you're not familiar with what that is, to basically kind of make the front of their house look better, I guess, for lack of a better word. So curb appeal. That's a loan that they've got to repay, interest free. I can't remember the amount of years it is to pay that back, but I think that's a good program to be promoting to some of our people that have problems, I think. And, this is geared towards landlords as well, that they can get this money to fix up a property to make it look better. So that was one of them. And then there was the community survey regarding the housing. That was posted on the Facebook page, and I think that will be coming up here shortly in our agenda. And then there was some COVID-19 tips for renters. Casey has also asked if you guys ever have anything else to let us know that you think might be important or we should share that with staff so we can get that on our Facebook page.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, John. All right, next on the agenda is Winnebago County eviction data update.
I can share that. I think, let me see if I can share my screen. That might be easier.
Yep, you should be able to. Yep, there we go.
Nice. So I have the updated data through July. So sorry for showing you some ugly Excel spreadsheets, but so for Linda on the phone, I can explain this to out loud. So far, we're looking, this shows the number of eviction filings since 2016 for Winnebago County. So for the month of July, we had 45 evictions filed within the courts. The average typically from 2016 through 2019 is about 54 for the month of July. I don't include 2020 in that because it's, 2020 was an off year. For the month of June, there were 58 total evictions filed in the county. So far for 2021, that puts us at 312 evictions that have been filed. To give some context, in 2020, for the whole year, there were 637 evictions filed. So we're about, halfway through. I'll jump over to looking at the judgments. So these are the actual judgments that have been recorded in the courts. So I'll make a note, this does, this data kind of lags a little bit for judgments because it takes some time for it to actually go through the courts. But this is the data that was as of last week when I sent this to Anna. So for the month of May, there were 61 evictions that were filed and 9 ended in an actual eviction, a judgment of eviction. So that's about 15% of the evictions that were filed that actually ended in eviction. So I've been updating this data, monthly. So I have to kind of look back for each of the months to see which of those evictions that were filed actually ended in a judgment.
This is very curious to me. So when 85% don't end in judgment, what exactly happens? I mean, is there does the judge rule one way or the other, but there's no judgment? Are the people still in their home?
So yeah, good question. There's kind of
I think a lot of times, Don, and this happens with our property managers, now this is Milwaukee, but a lot of times the filings go in and they'll actually go to court, and on the day of the court hearing, they'll come to some sort of an agreement to make a stipulated payment plan with in fact, in Milwaukee, there is right outside the courthouse, there's a legal services group that actually works with the tenants that are there to file stipulated payment agreements. And so there was a filing for it, but it never actually appears in front of the judge because you negotiate before you even get in front of the judge. In fact, there's a room set aside, and lots of courthouses where they'll bring in their own attorney, and you'll sit down with that attorney and come to a stipulated agreement so that they can stay in the thing. The unfortunate thing is that it gets to that point because there's obviously cost for all those filings and everything like that, and those filing costs get added on to the tenant's rent due. But that's what happens to just a ton of cases that I'm aware of.
So then, okay, but that's still on their CCAP. But if there is no judgment, that can be erased in like 2 months' time. Is that correct?
They can have it. They can have it expunged, but they have to file for that, and the person that originally did, so the landlord would have to agree to having that expunged from their record as well. This is the way that I remember it.
Yeah.
So most of these things that don't end in judgments, you think are ending up in some type of hallway of the courtroom, out in the back hall, they make a deal. Is that what you think's happening?
I would say
I just find it, I really appreciate you bringing these forward, Lindsay, but I was always kind of the period that, there was some type of legal judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah, in most cases,
I would say as I was looking through CCAP, it felt like the majority of these, there were kind of 3 options. The majority seemed to be what they call the stipulated dismissal, where there was some sort of agreement that came between the landlord and the tenant. There's some of these that do end up in a dismissal where the judge sides with the tenant. I will also note that this data isn't complete. So there's also some of the filings that haven't gone through the process. So they're not included yet
Sure.
in this data. So.
But
Yeah,
so
so one of the benefits, Don, of having the stipulated agreement is that if it's signed, I forget how, but they sign it, the landlord signs it, and it's in front of their attorney or some attorney, and through that stipulated agreement, it's basically that if they don't meet that payment plan, then it's easier to evict at that point because of the stipulated agreement. And I don't know exactly why or how it's easier to occur, but it's like agreed to in front of the court somehow. And so
Okay.
it's easier. And then the other thing though is that there are also filings, and then you get in there and the 5-day notice wasn't served properly. A 5 day is really 7 days if it's go through the mail. And so if it wasn't served properly, they don't have the proper service, stuff like that. So it can be thrown out for that, and then typically it will come back, next month or within a few days. So that's another way that where some of those get thrown out for improper service, or it could just be legit. Some of them, some of these evictions are not for non-payment. Some of them are for noise violations or something like that.
Yeah.
And a landlord thinks that they can get them out for a rule violation. Then you get in there and it says hearsay or something like that. So those get thrown out.
So
That's my
Lindsay, where did
experience
you
with
want to
it.
go with this? Where, this whole thing of people want to, it's been kicked around for like 5 years of eviction prevention. So would just be like kicking it to remediation before this happens? Because right now with the way things are, there's going to be, I just had a place, I literally had 100 phone calls, okay, in 48 hours. So what happens is, it's like, okay, there's some shining star comes out of that, and you don't even look at the ones that have anything on their record, because there's people that come through and they have high credit scores, they have no CCAP. You take them, So, I guess that's where I'm perplexed with this, I'm all for trying to help people not have an eviction on their record, I'm just wondering where we actually go with that. And I know we wanted to meet on that outside of this forum, so.
I mean, I think some of the goals of the group that I'm a part of looking at this data is how do we figure out ways to prevent evictions from even being filed in the first place. So, for example, connecting tenants to rental assistance with lieu, if they're qualified for that. Or is it, trying to connect them with the Winnebago Conflict Resolution Center so they can work through mediation first before the issue escalates? Is it having tenants go through Rent Smart so that they're more aware of how to communicate with their landlord, how to, do budgeting and all of that kind of thing? So I think that's the goal is, we want to see these numbers of actual evictions occurring hopefully go down, because that would benefit hopefully both the landlord and the tenant if we don't have tenants who are getting to that point of eviction.
Well, because most of our efforts are at the 11th hour, and as you may well know, I help teach Rent Smart, and one of the questions I used to ask is how many of you have been evicted or had evictions on their record, and the majority raised their hand. And so sometimes it's like the barn door being closed, after the cows got away. So I'm all in favor of doing something to get in front of it. I'm just wondering exactly how that's going to happen,
Lindsay, is there a brochure of some kind at this point, like eviction prevention brochure that gives people information about the things you just talked about?
Sort of, yes. We're kind of in the works of some. We had some ads in the Oshkosh Herald over the last few months, referring folks to the WERA funding, rental assistance, the Conflict Resolution Center, other resources that are available. So we've kind of been doing some like immediate resources for tenants. And then now we're kind of working through updating other resources, both for landlords and tenants. So more to come.
Not to harp on
Okay.
something I said. Well, I'm sorry. I stepped on you, Linda. Yes.
Oh, so there's not some sort of brochure that can be put out in the community with those resources on there?
We haven't done a brochure. We've done ads and in the Oshkosh Herald and flyers and posters and things. But we're working on other
Okay.
kind of materials. Yeah.
I think
Okay, so
that
I'm wondering if our board couldn't put together, and that's the purpose of this board. See, right here. I'm wondering if our board couldn't put together a brochure regarding eviction prevention. And like Lindsay, you said that you're in the process of gathering up more resources, or yeah, so when we have those resources available, maybe we could put together, our board could put together a brochure in that regard.
So we do have the eviction prevention task force that Don and I are a part of. That's kind of our role right now, is doing that. But I think once we have materials ready, we could use this board would be great to be able to help push that out.
I think the proper time is right when you sign the lease. I would like to see some type of resource packet that would be like the brochure that Linda's talking about, and Tim talked about, the thing with spelling out, landlord tenant law that the state has. I would think the proper time to give this information, you have to sit down and sign things like, smoke detector notice, all these other things, lead paint. It would be the time to pass this out to people is, here's the resources out there. And you'd be giving it to people at the start of the rental process rather than them trying to do something when things are ready. Regretfully, in the rental industry, usually by the time, maybe it's in life in general, by the time people take action, things are already pretty well falling apart.
Right, that makes perfect sense to start on the up front. That makes perfect sense to have a packet for people, but it also makes perfect sense to have information available out in the community, whether it's brochures at the library, at Sweet Vinnie's, or at Salvation Army, or at AdvoCap, or just get the information out there. So yeah, upfront is fabulous. We hope that works, but if it doesn't work, then there's other avenues to distribute information, like at farmers market or whatever like that.
Okay, any other questions for Lindsay? If not, the next thing on the agenda is the housing study update. Is that you, Kelly?
No, I get that one. This is Mark Lyons, Planning Services Manager. And I guess a few of you are actually on our housing committee board, so we can start by thanking both Lindsay and Todd for helping us on this. But I just wanted to come today, give you a quick update on the work that's taking place in the city to evaluate our current housing needs and hopefully start to establish some policies and programs to impact rental housing and owner-occupied housing here in the city. The committee's been meeting for about the last 5 months. There's been a number of surveys that have been pushed out during the data collection phase. RDG Consulting is helping the city with the project, and they've been current now, as I said, really in the data collection phase. There was a broad housing survey that was sent out earlier this summer. Last check, we were at about 800 results, I believe, on that survey. Since that time, they've been digging into some other demographic rental information. And more recently, we had 2 additional surveys, targeted surveys that were put out into the community. The first of those being, directly related to what this group is involved with, which was a landlord rental survey that went out. I believe we're up to about 300, not quite 300 responses so far on that survey. So that's a pretty decent response rate so far. Excuse me, misquoted that a little bit. It looks like I'm checking the data. Last I saw was 250 So considering that was a targeted landlord survey, we're pretty happy with about 250 responses. That survey period is still open, so hopefully some more data collection comes in for that. We're also presently doing a workforce survey, which is sent out to employers here in Oshkosh to get to their employers to better understand. Really, the intent of that survey is to understand if people don't live in Oshkosh, what is the primary factors driving them out of Oshkosh, or what are the primary factors that Oshkosh is lacking that are making them rent elsewhere or purchase elsewhere. We're looking at wrapping up the study here in about the next 2 or 3 months. The advisory board is meeting tomorrow night to look at the most recent information, and then probably looking at one more meeting in September where the draft plan will be presented to the board, to the advisory group. Once that advisory group does have a chance to look at the draft document, then we're going to be taking this out for public participation, public comment period for a number of months and meetings to garner some feedback on what we've done so far. After that point, then we'll proceed with changes and formal adoption, hopefully, early to late this fall. Todd or Lindsay, anything to add? I know you guys have been a great help and been involved in that process for us.
I don't have anything to add, but I had a question. How many landlords are in Oshkosh? You said you're getting 250 responses. I'm sort of surprised. How many?
So we sent it out to anyone who had ever registered themselves as a landlord in the city through our Evolve permit software. So if they were ever someone that was leasing or renting out, I don't remember the exact number that was sent out, but we can probably ask that tomorrow night and get a good answer from RDG.
Yeah. I always felt there was, somewhere around 1,200 landlords in Oshkosh. Would that be a fairly good estimate?
Yeah, the number that's ringing a bell from when I looked at this earlier was 800 or 900 were listed that we had sent it out to. But I can try to double check that here.
So you've got 800 or 900. I thought it was more than that, but was that the poll call? I got a couple. Was that the, I think it's called poll call one? Is that the one, the landlords?
Nope. So the Polka one would have been the original broad housing study
Okay.
survey that was sent out. You should have received one probably right around the week of July 19th would have been emailed out to you for the landlord one.
And what I
would have,
be honest with you, I'm getting a lot of surveys lately. I just want to make sure I got it.
Yep. It would have been an email survey sent to you from
Yeah.
RDG Planning and Design. That would have been a Survey Monkey survey. And I can always send it to you again, Don, if you want to take it again.
I'm sure I took it. I don't have a very good memory. And usually what happens is I get these things in email, I do them, and then I forget them.
Yep. It was only about a 3-minute survey or so. It was a very quick survey to try to get some information without being overly burdensome.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Don, is it possible for it to be sent to Don and then Don to disseminate to the members of the local association?
Sure.
Or do they want to keep more better tabs on it?
Yeah, Don, I'll email it to you right here in a couple of minutes, and that way we'll make sure you have it. I'm pretty sure I have your email address, but if I don't, I'll grab it from.
Yeah, it's my first and last name, no space, at gmail.com. So
I will. I'll copy the survey back to you right now, so you have it. If you can share with any of additional members you have, we would appreciate it.
yeah. Well, I'd be interested to see the results because I've never seen anything like this with the lack of housing for both purchase and for rental, at least at the affordable scale.
Yeah, I think as this study comes together and we start to get the draft document ready, this is one of the groups I'd like to come back to discuss the actual draft plan.
Yeah.
Well, I can give some housing study update, personal information. My daughter moved to Florida in June. She needed a 3-bedroom rental and could not find one, so she left the state, and which I'm not really happy about. But she had to have relatives down there, and they said that they could easily find a place, so there she went. So that's one little tiny speck of what's probably happening to a lot of families. People are losing their families because of this.
Can I ask you what she paid for a 3-bedroom down there? Do you know?
I don't know yet. She's living with her grandma, her other grandma,
Okay.
and she's getting a place she has a place for October. She's moving in October, but I didn't ask her how much she was paying. So that will be my next question to her. I'll write that down, Don.
Yeah. Well, one of the things is that Oshkosh was, as for cities above 50,000, we average some of the lowest rents, and the supply didn't keep up. Now, I'm finding rents are increasing substantially in Oshkosh of late, due to the
Right.
shortage.
And 3
So,
bedrooms are hard to find. Because
boy, I
she's
tell
got
you,
boys and girls.
I had 2 3 bedrooms open, and I didn't even run an ad on the second one because I had so many people left over from the first one. I didn't even bother, running an ad.
Yep, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So in the housing study update, I think you mentioned you were sort of tracking people that were leaving Oshkosh because of housing. But say that again. You said something about that, sir.
Yeah, the workforce survey that's presently out right now. Some of the questions related to that workforce study that workforce survey are asking people who choose not to rent or live in Oshkosh why. What are their barriers for choosing to live or rent elsewhere?
I know, but that doesn't count the people that have left. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's no way to track that, probably. Absolutely not. But anyways, that's a whole group of people that we're not able to track, are the people that have just left.
Yeah, unfortunately, short of them willingly coming and volunteering the information, it's hard for us to get hold of them to get that data.
Right. I guess we can tell if our census goes down. I mean, I don't know what our census is now, but I don't know if our census has gone down or not in the last census. Does anybody know that?
I don't know if they've got with COVID, if they've even got that yet for 2020. One of the things I wanted to ask Lindsay was, I've noticed in this study that, evictions, that we actually have fewer housing units by about 50 some than we had in 2016. So in other words, pretty much our number of housing units have remained stagnant. And I also noticed in 2020, I noticed we didn't have a renter occupied housing units on your survey. There were 637 evictions, but then usually below it, you would put how many units there was. Do you have that figure of how many units there was in 2020?
I don't, and I think that's something that I still need to
Okay.
update. I
But,
think I was
I mean,
just pulling that from
that was
the census.
a side note when you look at these eviction figures, that it says we had 24,697 units in 5 years ago in Winnebago County, and in 2019 we had 20,641. In other words, we lost units. And I'm just wondering, is this where we're going? Is that while our demand increases, our supply is actually slightly decreasing? And that might be the basis of the problem, that Linda's alluding to.
My feeling is that a lot of apartments turned into condos.
John, would you have any of that data where you would know if apartments or duplexes or if there's any conversions? Would you have that information at all? If we could see if that was a factor?
No, we don't have that where it goes from a apartment to a condo. There's nothing that they have to do different than that, or a duplex and then to a condo. I know for sure there was one complex out in the West Haven area that went from apartments to condos. I believe there have been some duplexes that were rental that have also gone condo, but we don't have any count of that, and there's nothing that they have to apply for, anything special through us to do that.
I'm hearing from a lot of renters too that saying they have to move because their landlord sold the building, sold their unit. And I'm just wondering, with real estate values going up, that they just figure here's now a good time to sell and get out of being a landlord. And I don't know how many of those are going to owner occupied that were formerly rentals.
There's also, I think, nationally, I know, and I don't know how, some of this I think is just anecdotal, but there's also a big short-term rental conversion of a lot of rental units, long-term rental units being converted to short-term rental with the whole Airbnb phenomena. So I think that that's taking some of that away as well, some of that housing, some of that rental housing. And those would be, a lot of times, those are some of the larger units. Okay, is there anything else with the housing study?
Nothing else for me.
Not-
So-
Progressing-
So you'll come,
Go ahead,
you'll
Lynn.
come
Go ahead,
back in October and give us some more information, some current
once-
information.
I can't guarantee it'll be October, but once we have the draft plan, my goal would be to get it out to this body and come back for a discussion.
Okay, well, I think it'd be good. So, but it won't it won't, I thought you said something was going on in September.
Yeah, we're meeting one more time with the advisory board in September with hopes to have that draft plan for October. They said based on timing, I can't guarantee it'll be October. We'll shoot for that.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thanks. The last agenda item is the public information campaign, and to be honest, I'm not sure where that was left off at. I was just trying to scroll through the meeting minutes, and does anybody else know where that was left off at and what we need to do?
I don't know.
Well, I think, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. This is Lindsay. I was just thinking, I don't know if Tim was going to bring anything, but now he wasn't able to attend the meeting. So I'm not sure where it's at.
Where did you think it was at, Linda?
I think when we were talking about that state, putting together taking that state pamphlet and kind of revising it a little bit to include Oshkosh. I think I was reminded of that because I read the minutes before the meeting, or last minutes. So we were going to revise that state pamphlet a little, or that state handout a little bit to include Oshkosh city codes, because it wasn't specific to Oshkosh, which it needed to be, or I thought it needed to be, so that people were aware of, because all it said is that in one part is that city folks had to abide by state law, but then city could develop their codes, and that's all it was said. So it makes sense for us to include housing codes for Oshkosh. So I think
Would you
that's
just be
all I
putting
remember
a
about it.
link in there to have a brochure with housing codes? I think you'd be better off just, having a link in there for them to be able to look it up, or a place where they can find information. So,
Well, it sounds like, was Tim gonna is Tim putting this together, modifying this, do you know? Or Lindsay, do you know?
I was just looking through the minutes from last time, and it looks like if anyone had ideas on the design or layout, or just ideas for information, to send them to Anna from the city for this meeting. So I don't know if that actually happened.
We did not receive any comments or information from any members.
Right. Then we also talked about making a poster, developing a poster, and that's why I thought we sort of needed to meet monthly, because you know, if somebody develop a poster today, we aren't going to vote on it for 2 months, and which sort of doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, it is what it is. So
Well, I
yeah,
guess
we
I'm,
talked about a poster.
but I guess I'm wondering who's actually doing the poster? I mean, who's actually putting it together? Is that something that city staff does and then we just approve it? Is this something that we direct city staff to do and then we approve it? Or is this members of the committee do it and then the committee approves it? There's any thoughts on this? Lindsay, since you're on the council, thoughts on how that actually is supposed to, that mechanism's supposed to work?
I mean, I think with our action plan, it would be great if we had, a column for who's responsible for it, and either someone would step up from the committee or the board to actually take that on as kind of lead, and then share updates with the rest of the board or ask for assistance as they need it. I think we need a little bit of accountability and just knowing who's actually taking on that project.
Right. I mean, that's not what we did with the brochures that we made up. We decided everything we wanted in it. And then the city sort of put it all together for us. And then, they made a draft, and we looked at it, and we're like, yes, this is exactly what we want. So we can somehow, with regard to a handout and a poster, develop it ourselves as a group, which I don't know how we're going to do that while we're online. See, that's what I'm saying. These kinds of projects are, I think, much more difficult to do online. But anyways, yes, I think that's our responsibility to put together the handout for the tenant landlord rights and to put some ideas out there for a poster. So I agree that it's our.
There's a lot of things, I think, Linda, that we could just, with links and things like the Tenant Resource Center down in Madison is excellent, and, I don't think we have to recreate the whale, but just kind of make people aware of the resources that are out there for like city codes and things like that. I would really think that would be the only vehicle we really need, is something to be able to tell people where they can find that information as it already exists.
Yeah, I know, but for my opinion is that for the average Joe to give out general state information doesn't do anything to the average Joe in Oshkosh. If you make things difficult for people, like just go to this website or just, go here, go there, and find this information, it really is, it impedes the process of educating the public. I think the more people have to shuffle around to figure something out, the less likely it is that they are going to access that information. I hear what you're saying, Don. It's already out there, but people don't know their rights. So
yeah, I understand that. What I'm trying to say too, Linda, is landlord-tenant law is very comprehensive, and it's like when I look at the Tenant Resource Center, and landlord-tenant law changes, like it seems like every legislative session. So having people that are really good at this already, and using them, I think, is the best way to go.
well, we agreed in our last meeting that we were not going to write up a tenant bill of rights for Oshkosh as long as we put together a robust campaign. and everybody agreed to a robust campaign to get information out to renters about their rights and landlords about their rights, both. So my impression is that we already agreed to put out a robust campaign. Am I correct? Did we agree on that?
Yes.
Yes, we did. So now what is it that we're sending out and how are we sending it out? I had suggested sending it out with the inspection notices as one thing, but the inspection notices, I guess, aren't going out until maybe October now. So I think they could also go in the water bill. Well, maybe they don't, the tenants don't get water bills. I don't know, some other, I'm open to whatever other suggestions anybody has, but I guess the first thing is we have to have something to put in it and we have to have somebody that puts that together. And to try and get a committee like this over these meetings to try and write something, I don't think I just think it's gonna take, I mean, we could spend 3 hours on just trying to write that. So why doesn't one person put it together? And I would suggest Tim or Linda, because this is, a driving issue for you. Well, it's a driving issue for you guys. So if, I think that you're passionate about it, so you'll be able to find some time to do that and put it together, and then we can make our comments on it. One question that I do have just from a parliamentary, I know that there are some rules about us meeting outside of these meetings. Kelly, can you explain how that works? How many people can get together outside of this meeting and meet to try and work on something like that?
Sure, yeah, we cannot have a quorum outside a noticed meeting, so it would have to be 3 people or less meeting.
Okay, so three people could work on this. Actually, I guess what could happen is, say, Linda, as an example, what you can do now, can Linda email it to all of the board members and ask for comment? And then, is that also considered? Because at one point I responded to an all-person email just with, I'm not going to be there. And I got a response back, I think from Anna, saying, you can't respond back to everybody on an email. Is that true, or how does that work?
Yeah, technically, if there are comments, you can send them to us, and then city staff can send it out to everybody. But we can't have that dialogue going back and forth with everybody.
Yeah, so here's my suggestion, Linda. Rather than meeting every month, I would say, let's set some deadlines of saying, okay, you're gonna have the first draft of this done in a week. It's gonna go out to everybody. Everybody has to have their responses back and their comments back within a week after that. And those comments go to city staff. City staff disseminates that out. And then, everybody can see what all the comments are. And then you can, you know, modify it again to the comments. It gets sent, within another day or whatever it takes to modify it. And to me, that's how we can move this process forward. Because if we think we're going to get this done by doing monthly meetings, it's never going to get done. So we have to, somebody has to take the initiative to put together the document and then email it out to everyone. And I guess maybe the process is that the document has to go to city staff. City staff then has to email it out to all the board members asking for comments within 48 hours. We send back our comments within 48 hours, and then the person that's assembling it integrates those comments. Were you saying something, Don? Okay. So that would be my suggestion. And Linda, if you don't want to do that, I guess we could ask Tim to do it. Or I don't know if there's somebody else. I mean, we've only got 4 of the however many people are on our committee or our board here. But
So what I hear, the feedback I'm getting from the landlords on the committee is that the landlord tenant guide that comes out of Madison is enough. So, and I'm saying And I think Tim is saying, I don't know what Tim is saying. He's not here. All I know is what I said during the last meeting was that I don't think it was enough. And that it needed to be changed up to make it more specific. But there's not agreement on that. We don't have agreement on making it more specific. That was my idea. Do we have agreement on that to make it more specific?
I think we do, because at the last meeting, we said, let's move forward with the public information campaign. I think what we need now is actual content to be able to react to as a board, and to be able to kind of move it forward. If we're committed to actually doing a campaign, we need some material to look at.
Right. So put something together and then see what people think about it. Is that what everybody's thinking about?
Sounds good to me.
All right, I think I will.
I think on the last meeting minutes, it's talked about a poster as an example. So what does that poster look like? And then once we have agreement on what the poster looks like, then we can actually, everybody can post them up at, I don't know, wherever, Quick Trips and all over the place, wherever they can, there's a poster place. So we can all take responsibility for taking a few posters and getting them out, disseminated across the community. But we have to have somebody that puts that poster together.
Correct.
So will you take responsibility for that, Linda?
For the poster and the handout?
Let's
I'll
start with
talk
the
to
poster.
Tim about it. I'll talk to Tim about it, see what he thinks, because
Yeah,
I think we need his input. It was his idea to begin with, tenant rights, and I was in agreement with that. So I guess I'll talk to Tim about it.
yeah, and I think
And,
that's fine. It sounds like up to 3 people can be meeting on it. So if it's you, Tim, and even somebody else, between you and him, come up with who's going to do what and get it then to city staff.
Okay, I know I just have to rein Tim in, because he bless his heart, he can get all wordy. So we'll figure it out by the next meeting. So we'll I won't say, oh yeah, I'm going to put this together in the next week. No, I know that's not going to happen. But by the next meeting, we'll have something. Before the next meeting, I mean, we'll have something.
Yeah, well, I mean, right now, the next meeting is 2 months away. So if you guys can get this done sooner than that and get it to city staff, and hopefully we can have comments back to city staff, and the city staff get it back to you for the second and hopefully final draft, then we'll have something to actually vote on at the next meeting. Okay?
No, that's not how it works. I don't think that's how it works. Because you guys have to have input in it too. We have to bring it to the meeting, and then like a draft, bring it to the meeting. That's why we should meet in a month, but we're not. So we have to bring it to the meeting. So there can be input on, well, I don't want this in there. Yes, this needs to be added. There has to be input from other members, not just what we make up and then you vote. It probably voted down. So, no, we need input from everybody.
Yeah, and I'm saying that we will have input from everybody. And Kelly, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, so what I'm saying is that if you and Tim put together the draft, you send it to the city, to Kelly or to Anna, and then with the direction that it gets sent out to all of the board members, and the board members have to respond with comments within 48 hours. We'll give everybody 48 hours to give comments. So at that point, everybody has had an opportunity to make comments. then you can take those comments and you'll have to, and then it's gonna be hard, right? Because everybody's gonna have different comments and some of them are gonna be competing, but you're gonna have to try to integrate those in as best you can. And maybe you're looking at, you know, so integrate those in as best you can and send it, you know, I guess I'd send it back out again for another round to see if you get any more comments. So once you're done, you send it back to the city. You ask the city to send it back to all the board members with a turnaround on comments in 48 hours again. And if you don't get any comments, then, you know, everybody had their opportunity to make comments. Now it'll go to the next, our next board meeting. Now, you're right, it is possible that even in that board meeting, then it may get voted down. But that's why you want to make sure that you're incorporating everybody's comments in, right? So if you're incorporating people's comments in, theoretically, it shouldn't get voted down because everybody's had an opportunity to make their comments in between the meetings. And
Right, but that's not how collaboration works, though. That's not collaboration. That's putting something out there. You tell me what to do with it, and then I have to do what you say. And I'm being respectful right now. I'm just trying to outline in my mind how I'm thinking they're expecting this to go. But no, that's what meetings are for. We collaborate. We do things together. It's not like we're going to put something out there and then you comment, and now I have to fix it. And if I don't fix it, then it gets voted down. No, that's not how boards are supposed to work. We collaborate. So this is how I want to do it. If you want me to do it, this is how I want to do it. I want to put it together. Tim and I will put it together. We'll put it together before the next meeting. We'll have a draft. We'll send it to the city so that you have it ahead of time before the meeting so you can look it over, and then at the next meeting we'll talk about it. That's how that's supposed to work. That's my understanding about how things are supposed to work. And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but it just doesn't seem right to just put it all out there and then be expected to make changes because I was told to. You see what I'm trying to say? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I think
Anybody
I do,
understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think
somebody else saying?
I think it depends on, you know, how quickly you want us to get this information out to the public. I do think because you and Tim would be creating this, you do have discretion whether or not to incorporate the feedback that we would give you. But also considering if we want to get this out, we have to kind of balance all of the feedback. And so if we want to get this out sooner, you know, I do like Todd's recommendation of getting the draft to staff, and then staff can send out for comments, and then we give that back. And then by, you know, our next meeting in October, we could potentially have enough votes to approve it and it's ready to go. But if you want to have more of a discussion during the meeting, that may delay it, but that's an option if that's how we want to go.
And I think the other thing is that, let's say that I'm the only one that comments, right? And there's some things on there that you just don't disagree with, that you just can't live with. There's nothing to say that you and I, because we're still not affecting the quorum, right? You and I and Tim even, so three of us, or even, if we get to four, that's too many, right? Okay, so three of us can get together and hash that out and say, okay, here's the one pain in the butt guy who's, you know, disagreeing with this. Let's just sit down with a meeting and or on the phone or what, we can meet in person and, you know, hash through what the issues are and then come to an agreement. And then you send that back out after you got the guy that's kind of a pain in your side. If you've got him on your side now with it, and you send it back out, and nobody else has any more comments, the next round should be voted on, right? So it speeds up the process and it keeps things moving, and it helps to alleviate one of the problems that I have with this committee is that we don't seem to do anything other than listen to people, you know, give us reports.
Okay, well, All right, I'm happy to work on it. I'll contact Tim about it. And, I can't give you like a deadline, like 2 weeks or whatever. I don't know if Tim's on vacation for 2 weeks or, you know, what he's doing today. I don't know what his schedule is. So, we'll figure it out. And, so I can't give you a timeline right now, but we'll certainly have something within the next few weeks. We'll have something. I guess that's all I can say right now. Since Tim isn't here,
Yeah.
I can't speak for him.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's just, you know, the quicker that you guys can get it done, the quicker we can move that through the agenda and get it off the agenda and get on to other things. So the quicker you can do it is the better, but we also understand that everybody's busy and you got other things going on. So that's fine, you know, whatever you can fit into your schedule. And, you know, I really appreciate you taking this on. So thank you. All right,
Thank you.
any other things on the agenda or anything else we have to bring up? If not, I would ask for a motion to end the meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? I guess roll call?
Erickson,
Aye.
Hutchinson,
Aye.
Javatis,
Aye.
Lord,
Aye.
motion carried.
All right, thanks, everybody. We'll see you in 2 months, if not in between. Hopefully, we'll talk in between about getting this information campaign rolling. Thanks, bye.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.